In Mandy, Nicolas Cage and his titular girlfriend live an idyllic existence in a cabin in the woods. That is until they're bothered by an evil cult. After they commit an unspeakable act, that normally reserved and very quiet and dignified actor Nicolas Cage goes on a roaring rampage of revenge. Mandy is the second feature from director Panos Cosmatos, who made Beyond the Black Rainbow about 8 years ago. That film was a perfectly observed pastiche of psychotronic cinema, a type of genre film best known for its hallucinatory visuals, excellent soundtracks, and focus on tone and atmosphere over plot. The first third to half of Mandy is quite similar, really. It's a well-observed pastiche of the satanic thrillers that were quite popular in low-budget horror from the late 70s to early 90s. Everything from font to animated titles to matte-painted skies and the excellent score by Johan Johansson, which is really heavy on the synths and electric guitars, is very reminiscent of those movies. And much like Beyond the Black Rainbow, the whole thing has this hellish, hallucinatory vibe. There's lots of slow zooms, multiple dissolves in a single frame, there's strong colour casts and sequences, and something as mundane as a woman walking by a car going down the road is communicated through slow motion, slow dissolves, this incredibly strong red tint on screen. The whole thing has this hellishly portentous feel to it. No one acts normal, nothing looks normal. It has this really strong vibe to it that does feel quite artificial, and I think maybe worked better in Beyond the Black Rainbow, which is largely restricted to one location, and so it felt like a more contained universe. The cult's assault on the couple's cabin, try saying that 3 times quickly, really is the best of this approach. It's really tone heavy, it feels horrific and really slow moving, but you can't take your eyes away from it, and it's visually unique. In particular, one sequence where these demon bikers, I don't really know how much better to describe them, come into the bedroom of the main couple. It's lit like entirely with strobe lights, and it's a really bizarre way of communicating that sequence. But I think that shows the skill of Panos Cosmatos at his best. He's making something out of nothing, a moment that another director might throw away or treat in a really generic way, he tells in a very specific visual language. Whether or not that language works for you, up for grabs, but you can't deny the guy knows what he's doing, he knows what he likes. If this sounds like an exact retread of Beyond the Black Rainbow, well then I have news for you. This is the point at which the film changes. Cage enters the bathroom of the house that he lives in kind of tighty whities and a t-shirt. He grabs a bottle of vodka and starts just downing it in this explicitly 70s bathroom with this like flowery wallpaper that's in these horrible shades of orange and brown. And he's just screaming and laughing and crying and downing this bottle of vodka. And that's where the film stops being like Beyond the Black Rainbow, by and large, and turns into more like a grindhousey type feel movie. It weirdly becomes lighter with more visual gags, and there's lots of moments where my audience laughed at the movie. There's a cavalcade of events as Cage goes on his rampage, and we get scenes like Nicolas Cage forging an axe for himself for some reason, somehow, somewhere, it's not very clear. We get Cage lighting a man on fire, then chopping his head off and lighting his cigarette off the man's flaming skull. Now the audience really enjoyed it, but the question is whether or not that's something that we haven't seen before. And for me, I think I've seen a lot of parodies of grindhouse stuff like Jason Eisner's Hobo with a Shotgun that had a more vicarious thrill to them and hadn't had half an hour of drony, slow, quiet atmosphere build-up that felt like a very different film. At its worst, all this feels kind of manufactured, maybe an idea to refill the reservoir of Nicolas Cage memes, which I've noticed have gotten a little used recently. But it's a strange position for me to be in. I love trash cinema, and I've watched a lot of genre films from the time period that the film is drawing off really heavily. And these kind of movies, these grindhouse pastiches, always leave me a little cold. One of the things I like about those trash movies is that there's something inventive and original about them, and they really don't care about execution, they're just brimming with ideas. And so necessarily to take more money and more refined techniques and go and use them on replicating that look really carefully just feels like treading old ground and not really in the same spirit as far as I'm concerned. But the audience loved it. There was lots of laughter in my screening, and the woman sitting next to me kept on saying to her friend, "No way," under her breath, like she didn't even believe that this kind of stuff could happen on screen. There's lots of things you can say about Mandy, I think, but it was definitely fun, and it was definitely a movie. It's very well crafted, even if you don't really agree with what it does or how the movie works as a whole. So Mandy is really 2 films. One part of it is this perplexing, drony, slow, and clever atmospheric horror that's so abstracted from motive or action that it becomes purely about tone and atmosphere. And the other half is a balls-to-the-wall, action-y Nicolas Cage grindhouse pastiche. Which one you prefer is up to you, but I can say they're both very well crafted and well executed, at least as far as their aims take them. And hey, what other movie are you going to see a puppet goblin throw up mac and cheese onto children? Huh? This movie's going to be divisive, so I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. Do let me know what you thought of Mandy. That's it from me. Bye for now.